Resident Evil Village, the super late review. A lot of you have been asking me since the second Resident Evil Village came out, where's my review? I've actually been really busy both playing the game and working on a bunch of new Resident Evil content for the channel, all at the same time. So it's taken me a little bit to get this one out, but I didn't want to rush it out either. I wanted to spend a really good amount of time with the game first before I gave my full, complete opinion. As of now, I've racked up about 60 plus hours in this game, about 5 or 6 playthroughs, and I think it's about 60 plus hours because my actual file says 122 hours, but I did leave the TV on for like a day or two, so I don't think that's completely accurate, but I've played it quite a bit. It's probably obvious that I enjoyed it, just a little, so we're going to talk about it today. Possibly with some very light story spoilers. I'm not going to go into too much details with the spoilers because there's a lot of plot twists that should be experienced, but I may touch on some plot points. Before we get started, here's a word from today's sponsor. Raid Shadow Legends, the free dark fantasy RPG that you've never heard any content creator mention before. Available on both PC and mobile, Raid Shadow Legends has millions of players battling dozens of tough bosses, but its heart and soul are its champions. A variety of playable heroes that are gorgeous to look at, some clearly more gorgeous than others. And now more enter the fray. New warriors known as the Shadowkin faction, shrouded in mystery and hailing from the furthest reaches of the eastern continent beyond the Brimstone Path. The Shadowkin have been under the brutal heel of the demon spawn for several hundred years, and you could become one of the first to uncover their mysteries. If you like Eastern Asian style characters, these are right up your alley. From awesome samurai-like characters to terrifying Oni monsters, there's a character here for everybody. The one I want to work towards too is Sachi. I mean, look how awesome she looks with her swinging weapon and mask. Both deadly and beautiful. What I like most about this game is the variety of characters. There's a ton of them to unlock as you grind away, more and more keep popping up, and it's fun just looking at them sometimes. No two look exactly the same. And this month is the perfect time to join. Raid is releasing an incredible amount of content, 11 new champions, 200 brand new missions with an exclusive legendary champion as your reward once you finish those missions. Just look at him, how could you not want him on your team? And if that's not enough, almost every single dungeon in the game is getting 5 tough new levels. So what are you waiting for? The game is free, try it out. Use my links below so you can summon awesome champions as soon as you jump in. Once you're in, you can find me under the name GamerThumbTV, and if you're fast enough, you can join my clan. Just click the link in the description, and I'll see you in the game. Thank you, Raid, for sponsoring this video, and now back to Resident Evil Village. Resident Evil Village is the follow-up sequel to Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, our introduction to a new hero in the series, Ethan Winters, a faceless protagonist. 7 did kind of split the fanbase a bit. Some loved the new first-person style of the gameplay, although technically Resident Evil has dipped its toes into the first-person bucket several times. 7 was nowhere near the first time, but it sure as hell was the best. It was terrifying, especially in VR, night and day difference with VR and non-VR, with Ethan exploring the confined corridors and hallways of the Baker house while being attacked by monsters. I don't see anything. The fuck? No! 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 Let me start off by saying this. If you're in the crowd of Resident Evil 7 is not Resident Evil, Village isn't going to change your mind. They've got the remakes for you. But the real magic of the series trying new things is that there's a Resident Evil for everybody. Throughout the series' history, gameplay mechanics have gone from survival horror, first-person gameplay, handheld exploration-style gameplay, rail shooters, Michael Bay action movies. So I can't relate to those "this isn't Resident Evil" complaints. There's no one specific example that qualifies as the basis for all Resident Evil. Having said that, I will still recommend Village to all types of Resident Evil fans. The game is a damn masterpiece. There, I said it, end of review. But I suppose I could go into a little more detail than that. Resident Evil Village is a different beast than 7 in many ways, while still retaining that familiar gameplay. For starters, Village isn't really scary. At all, really. There's one area in particular that was kind of creepy, the dollhouse, and it genuinely gave me a jump scare. But that was pretty much it, and I think that's due to the game design itself, whereas much of 7 made you feel like you were all alone in a claustrophobic nightmare house that you couldn't escape. Village is a much more open world by design, so it does take a lot of the fear away in general. However, it does work for the game. By this time, story-wise, Ethan has had military training, his wife was taken right before his very eyes, and he's on a mission to rescue the only family he's got left, his baby daughter. He's a much more confident hero, and he went from being a generic player character in 7 without much backstory. He was just some regular guy that found himself in a horrifying situation. Character traits that worked for 7. But Village takes his character and makes him into one of the most interesting protagonists we've had yet, as you learn more about Ethan and why he's so important. The story kept me guessing, and it was genuinely hard to put down. I just wanted to keep playing to find out where the story was headed next. And the setting is almost a character on its own, the village, and the monsters found within. It's this desolate, isolated place in the middle of the mountains, middle of nowhere, where the very few survivors are being threatened by the creatures that inhabit the area. I gotta say, Capcom did a fine job marketing this game because the trailers didn't give away the entire plot like so many trailers do nowadays. I feel like nowadays you know everything about a game before it comes out. People made so many assumptions before this was released, and most of these assumptions were wrong because Resident Evil always has misdirection in their marketing. This is the second time people fell for the Chris is evil plot point.
You think you'll get away with this?
I already have, Jill.
Do you have it?
Maybe. You'll have to kill me to find out.
And the "this isn't Resident Evil" crowd immediately complained that supernatural monsters aren't Resident Evil. Everything in the game has an in-game biological explanation. There's nothing supernatural here. Stop making assumptions based on the trailers and play the game. Also, there was a werewolf in a Resident Evil comic before. It's no secret I love Castlevania and monster movies, especially the old school Universal monsters, and let me tell you, the title of this video is the most accurate way I could possibly describe Resident Evil Village. It's undeniably a love letter to classic monsters. The village is broken up into several regions, with the actual village in the middle, and the domain of the Four Lords in control of the village. The Four Lords are the main bad guys standing in Ethan's way, led by the mysterious Mother Miranda above them. And it's a very Metal Gear style structure. I really like that. You've got these areas you need to explore and then take down this group of superpowered freaks one by one, each with their own distinct personality and set of abilities, very much classic Metal Gear. There's Lady D, a character that everybody has heard of by now, that the Resident Evil community fell head over heels for. Her infection has caused her to develop into a very tall, very vampire-like character. She has a creepy-ass castle where victims are taken, turned into monsters, drained of blood. Entire area is just filled with blood. And as you explore her castle, you're chased by her and her 3 also vampire-like daughters. All of this clearly being an homage to Dracula, Dracula's castle, and his 3 wives. Lady D's ultimate transformation even turns her into some big dragon monster. Another reference to Dracula being the dragon. There's also Moreau. He's this big, dopey, ugly, extremely deformed man that has his own little reservoir, a place filled with water where he can transform freely into this giant fish monster. Vampires and a fish monster. You mean like the creature from the Black Lagoon? Then there's quite possibly my favorite one, Heisenberg. He's just despicable. He's voiced by the same actor behind Nikolai, so when he talks, in my mind all I hear is Nikolai, and it's great. Well, he very much looks like a Van Helsing type character, but he has these magnetic, electric powers. He's got a whole factory where he brings corpses to experiment on, and brings them back to life in horrific ways. Does that sound familiar? You mean like Victor Frankenstein? This entire factory section is so Frankenstein-like that Capcom has even been accused of plagiarizing due to some character designs from a movie called Frankenstein's Army. It could be coincidence. Yeah, let's move on. Form your own opinion. I'll leave it at that. And the last lord I haven't talked about is Donna Beneviento, the mutated doll maker with her doll Angie that she communicates through. I thought the little Angie doll was hilarious and entertaining, and her section is one of the creepiest ones in the game. During her boss battle, you have to find the doll, and you have to take it out before all the other dolls attack you. Child's play. And Donna has the power to create hallucinations, so you don't know what's quite real and what isn't, and she's easily a play on the Invisible Man character, that real threat that you literally don't see. Aside from the 4 lords, the game is also filled by your standard enemies, comprised of multiple creatures, lycans/werewolves being some of the most numerous, the Wolfman. There's no way you could play this game and not come off thinking that it was a big love letter to classic monsters. It's an excellent original Resident Evil experience that incorporates elements from other sources and makes it its own. Resident Evil 4 was a heavy influence on the overall feel. Even Ada was going to pop up in it until they decided to cut her out. And just like the more action-oriented Resident Evil games, there's multiple weapons that are upgradable using money that you find in the environment or by selling treasures to the new merchant, the Duke. There's no storage boxes, you just have these cases that you can upgrade with more slots, and you can wiggle your inventory around Tetris style. There's a cooking mechanic, sort of like Breath of the Wild, where you hunt different animals and use the meat to cook dishes that give Ethan permanent upgrades. There's a crafting system like the ones found in multiple open world games nowadays, so you're never really in danger of running out of ammo as long as you're picking up resources and using them wisely to craft your ammo. Resident Evil Village takes what Resident Evil 7 started and built on it, using tried and true game mechanics while crafting this gothic monster world around it that encourages you to explore and read all the little notes you find, something I highly recommend that you do. All this extra lore does such a great job expanding the lore of the series, and it gives you insight into the village's history. When you first get here, you have no idea what's going on, so the more you can learn, the better. Half of the fun of the story was discovering all the little secrets that you'll miss if you just blow through the game as quickly as possible. Now, as far as the game's length, I've heard some people say it's short, very short. I'm going to say the same thing I said about Resident Evil 3 Remake. These games were not meant to be played by putting it on easy, blowing through it once, then put it away forever. If you do that, of course it's going to be short. The best way to play these games, and this is how I recommend it, is by starting it on standard difficulty, beat it, do a second run on hardcore, then a third run on the hardest Village of Shadows mode. The game even encourages this play strategy since there's a challenge for playing it 3 times. Sure, you can start on hardcore or Village of Shadows if you want a real challenge that will push you to your limits at times, but prepare to face a purposely unbalanced campaign. It's really designed around beating it while upgrading your weapons and your Ethan, then taking your upgrades into a new game plus mode on a higher difficulty. You keep everything you earn. Even with your upgrades intact, there's still a fair amount of challenge where enemies hit harder, but so do you. People that play these games once, beat the campaign, then put it away, are really missing out on what the game has to offer. After you beat it once, there's a whole unlockable extra content shop where you can unlock rewards by accomplishing in-game challenges, many of them tied to trophies and achievements ranging from killing a certain amount of enemies with a specific gun, to doing a knife-only run or a speed run. There's a bunch of challenges and a bunch of rewards, like infinite ammo or a lightsaber, with different color settings that affect your stats differently. So the replayability factor in Village is simply outstanding. At this point, I'm only missing a handful of trophies and a couple challenges, and I've had an absolute blast going through some of these. One of the best rewards you unlock easily in the shop is Mercenaries mode. My one complaint about it is that it really should have had an online co-op mode. It would have been really fun blasting through these maps with friends online. But what's given to us is crazy addicting. Every time I load up this mode to play 1 or 2 maps, I find myself an hour or 2 later still going. It's basically a horde mode where you're timed and you have to blast away enemies as quickly as possible with limited ammo until you get enough points to advance to the next area. Once I actually understood the combo system, which revolves mainly around you building up your combo meter by killing enemies consecutively with little time in between, it wasn't too hard getting S ranks on the map, but if you really want to be a perfectionist and master this game, you can get ranks above S ranks. And I recommend going through this mode and practicing multiple times. Mercenaries is a mode that fans have been asking for quite a while now that sadly Resident Evil 3 Remake was missing completely. And with Village, it finally made its return, though it is lacking some of the things I would have personally liked to see, like extra characters and online play as I mentioned before. It'll still suck hours away because it's so much fun. And I think that about wraps up my overall thoughts on Resident Evil Village. I am working on a timeline series video for it. I keep getting questions about that. That'll be up whenever it's done. But in the meantime, if you haven't checked out Resident Evil Village yet, please do. It's easily the best game I played this year so far, and top tier when it comes to Resident Evil games. It's up there. Would love it if it got a VR update in the future whenever that's ready for PS5, but what's here now is almost perfect. There's not really much criticism I have for the game. Thumbs up, my seal of approval, it's good, get it. And let me know your thoughts down below if you've played it. How do you compare it to the rest of the series? Do you prefer Village or do you prefer 7? And if you'd like to support my work, I invite you to become a patron. There's multiple levels of support available. Or for an option right here on YouTube, you can become a channel member and gain access to exclusive badges, emojis, and polls. Every dollar help keeps the wheels turning, and I'd like to thank my current patrons and channel members for their continued support. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe and hit the bell for notifications, and make sure you follow me on social media so you never miss a thing. I'll catch you guys later.